Welcome to our channel. Today we're diving deep into the extraordinary legacy of Bruce Lee and the evolution of his groundbreaking fighting style. From his iconic one-inch punch to the creation of Jeet Kune Do, Lee's innovations transformed martial arts forever. Stick around as we explore how his philosophy and techniques continue to shape the world of combat sports today. Let's get started. In this video, we'll take a look at the evolution of Bruce Lee's fighting style, from his early training in Wing Chun to the development of Jeet Kune Do. Discover how Lee's unique approach to martial arts broke away from tradition, blending elements from different disciplines to create a more fluid and effective combat system. Whether you're a martial artist or just a fan of Bruce Lee's legacy, this video is a must-watch. Jeet Kune Do, JKD, the martial art created by Bruce Lee, is one of the most revolutionary fighting systems in history. Unlike traditional martial arts, which often follow rigid forms and structures, JKD is based on the principles of adaptability, efficiency, and simplicity. Its evolution was the culmination of Bruce Lee's pursuit of the perfect fighting system, one that could be practical, effective, and free of unnecessary movements. Growing up in Hong Kong, Lee was a student of Wing Chun Grandmaster Ip Man. However, in America, he called what he taught Jung Fang Kung Fu. However, around 1964, following his encounter with Wong Jackman, Lee disavowed the rigidity of systematized martial arts. Following this, Lee began a journey of research in order to refine his way of practicing martial arts. And in 1965, he outlined the basic concepts of Jeet Kune Do in a press interview. But it was not until 1967 that he came up with the name Jeet Kune Do. Initially, Lee wrestled with putting a name to his art, as he constantly veered away from any type of crystallization of its essence. However, the simple need to refer to it in some concrete way led him to decide upon a name for it. Lee began his martial arts journey with Wing Chun, a traditional Chinese martial art focused on quick, direct strikes, especially for close-range combat. However, as Lee grew more experienced, he realized that no single martial art could address all the dynamics of real-world combat. Influenced by his philosophy of absorb what is useful, discard what is not, Lee began to experiment with a variety of fighting techniques from different martial arts, including boxing, fencing, judo, and kickboxing, blending them into a cohesive, highly adaptable system. You can't do this. The turning point in the evolution of JKD came when Lee realized that martial arts had to be fluid and dynamic, not constrained by tradition. He rejected the idea of being confined to any one style, and instead embraced the concept of being like water, able to take the shape of whatever situation or opponent you encounter. This philosophy became the cornerstone of Jeet Kune Do. The system emphasizes directness, simplicity, and speed, striking quickly and decisively without unnecessary movement. A key element of Jeet Kune Do is the focus on intercepting attacks. The term Jeet Kune Do itself means way of the intercepting fist, referring to the idea of attacking the opponent at the moment they are about to strike, intercepting their attack with your own. This emphasis on timing, precision, and interception set JKD apart from traditional martial arts styles that often relied on complex techniques and stances. Lee's system also prioritizes the use of all parts of the body to create efficient movement, including explosive footwork and rapid strikes. Another important aspect of JKD's evolution was Lee's rejection of fixed stances. In traditional martial arts, stances were often used as a foundation for attack and defense. However, Lee believed that this rigid structure slowed a fighter down and made them more predictable. In contrast, Jeet Kune Do emphasized mobility and fluid movement, allowing practitioners to flow seamlessly between offense and defense, adapting to the ever-changing nature of combat. Lee's influence on martial arts is undeniable, and his development of Jeet Kune Do paved the way for the modern era of mixed martial arts, MMA. The principles of JKD, particularly its focus on adaptability and cross-training, became the foundation for many of the techniques used in MMA today. Fighters who practice JKD continue to blend different martial arts styles to create a more complete, well-rounded approach to combat. In an interview, Bruce Lee said, "I have not invented a new style, composite, modified, or otherwise, that is set within distinct form as apart from this method or that method. On the contrary, I hope to free my followers from clinging to styles, patterns, or molds. Remember that Jeet Kune Do is merely a name used, a mirror in which to see ourselves. Jeet Kune Do is not an organized institution that one can be a member of. Either you understand or you don't, and that is that. There is no mystery about my style. My movements are simple, direct, and non-classical. The extraordinary part of it lies in its simplicity. Every movement in Jeet Kune Do is being so of itself. There is nothing artificial about it. I always believe that the easy way is the right way. Jeet Kune Do is simply the direct expression of one's feelings with the minimum of movements and energy. The closer to the true way of Kung Fu, the less wastage of expression there is. Finally, a Jeet Kune Do man who says Jeet Kune Do is exclusively Jeet Kune Do is simply not with it. He is still hung up on his self-closing resistance in this case, anchored down to a reactionary pattern, and naturally is still bound by another modified pattern and can move within its limits. He has not digested the simple fact that truth exists outside all molds. Pattern and awareness is never exclusive. Again, let me remind you, Jeet Kune Do is just a name used, a boat to get one across. And once across, it is to be discarded and not to be carried on one's back. The metaphor Lee borrowed from Chan Buddhism was of constantly filling a cup with water and then emptying it, used for describing Lee's philosophy of casting off what is useless. Lee considered traditional form-based martial arts, which practiced prearranged patterns, forms, and techniques, to be restrictive and ineffective in dealing with chaotic self-defense situations. Lee believed that real combat was alive and dynamic, and conceived Jeet Kune Do to enable its practitioners to adapt to the changes of live combat, believing that it was only through its use in real combat that a martial arts practitioner could judge a technique worthy of adoption. Lee incorporated into Jeet Kune Do 4 universal combat truths that he felt were self-evident and would lead to combat success if followed. The 4 combat ranges in particular are what he felt were instrumental in becoming a total martial artist. This is also the principle most related to mixed martial arts. Number 8, JKD practitioners also subscribe to the notion that the best defense is a strong offense, hence the principle of interception. Lee believed that in order for an opponent to attack someone, they had to move towards them. This provided an opportunity to intercept that attack or movement. The principle of interception covers more than just intercepting physical attack. Lee believed that many nonverbals and telegraphs, subtle movements that an opponent is unaware of, could be perceived or intercepted and thus be used to one's advantage. The 5 ways of attack are attacking categories that help Jeet Kune Do practitioners organize their fighting repertoire and comprise the offensive portion of JKD. The concepts of stop hits and stop kicks in simultaneous parrying and punching were borrowed from European fencing and Wing Chun's theory of simultaneous defending and attacking and comprised the defensive portion of JKD. These concepts were modified for unarmed combat and implemented into the JKD framework by Lee. These concepts also complement the other principle of interception. Lee believed that martial systems should be as flexible as possible. He often used water as an analogy for describing why flexibility is a desired trait in martial arts. Water is infinitely flexible. It can be seen through, and yet at other times it can obscure things from sight. It can split and go around things, rejoining on the other side, or it can crash through things. It can erode the hardest rocks by gently lapping away at them, or it can flow past the tiniest pebble. Lee believed that a martial system should have these attributes. JKD students reject traditional systems of training, fighting styles, and the Confucian pedagogy used in traditional Kung Fu schools because of this lack of flexibility. JKD is claimed to be a dynamic concept that is forever changing, thus being extremely flexible. Absorb what is useful, disregard that which is useless, is an often quoted Bruce Lee maxim. A JKD student is encouraged to study every form of combat possible, both to add to his arsenal and to know how to defend against such tactics. There are many who confuse the JKD framework with the JKD personal system, Bruce Lee's personal JKD, thinking them to be one and the same. The system that Bruce Lee personally expressed was his own personal JKD, tailored for himself. Before he could do this, however, he needed to first develop the JKD framework process. Many of the systems that Bruce Lee studied were not to develop his personal JKD, but rather was used to gather the principle for incorporation in the JKD framework approach. The uniqueness of JKD to Lee is that it was a process, not a product, and thus not a style, but a system, concept, or approach. Traditional martial arts styles are essentially a product that is given to a student with little provision for change. These traditional styles are usually fixed and not tailored for individuals. Bruce Lee claimed there were inherent problems with this approach and established a process-based system rather than a fixed style which a student could then utilize to make a tailored or personal product of their own. Some of the exercises Lee did included dasamsing or gaksamsing, a traditional method of forearm conditioning practiced in classical Kung Fu. He also did exercises simulating a fight against a four-limbed human using the traditional Mugyanjong used in Wing Chun. Lee was also an avid follower of Indian wrestler Great Gama's training routine. He read articles about him and how he employed his exercises to build his strength for wrestling, incorporating them into his own routine. The training routines Lee used included isometrics, as well as the cat stretch, the squat, known as Baitek, and also known as the deep knee bend. Ultimately, Jeet Kune Do was not just a fighting system, but a philosophy. Bruce Lee's journey to create the perfect martial art reflected his belief in personal growth and constant improvement. His evolution of JKD represents the idea that martial arts should be as individual and unique as the practitioner themselves, not limited by the constraints of tradition, but driven by the desire for practical effectiveness in combat. The legacy of Jeet Kune Do endures, influencing martial artists and combat sports enthusiasts to this day. Bruce Lee's Jeet Kune Do is more than just a martial art. It's a philosophy of self-expression, adaptability, and continuous improvement. By breaking free from rigid traditions, Bruce Lee showed the world that the true essence of martial arts lies in its practicality and its ability to evolve. His legacy lives on, inspiring martial artists and fighters to embrace creativity, fluidity, and efficiency. Jeet Kune Do isn't just about fighting, it's about adapting to life's challenges with confidence and grace. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the evolution of Jeet Kune Do and Bruce Lee's timeless legacy, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories and insights. Let us know in the comments what you think about Bruce Lee's philosophy or how his journey has inspired you. Until next time, stay motivated, stay adaptable, and remember, be like water, my friend. And take care.